Are Australians really British? Hi everyone, Make Australia British Again, David here. Increasingly, since the 1970s, Australians have deviated from the British identity. Most commonly, you'll hear people say, "We're not British, we're Australian." Put simply, British is just any culture that is situated in the British Isles. So regardless of the independence of the Republic of Ireland as a country, or Crown dependencies such as the Isle of Man or the Channel Islands will be included in the definition of British. Statements such as, "We're not British, we're Australian," imply that the identity of being Australian is in conflict with being British. The only thing that separates Britain and Australia is our geography. Our culture and people are the same. Two things can be true at once, and this is demonstrated through a myriad of ways. Our blood. According to the census, the country stands at 51% British ancestry. Granted, there is an Australian ethnicity category as well, but this separate category may not be representative of those with solely British ancestry. For example, someone could be 25% Danish, 25% Russian, 25% Spanish, and 25% Greek. They can't reasonably denominate their ethnicity into anything, so they might just select Australian, as there isn't a category that covers all of those. Also, this Australian category hasn't existed until recently. As I pointed out in my last video with the 1954 census, that Australia has only been using the Australian ethnicity as a metric until recently, as before then we used to delineate between British-born Australians and Australian-born British Australians. Symbolism. The Union Jack is still featured on the Australian flag. Government. Australia is governed by those who are majority British heritage at 96% white, according to the BBC. Moreover, the Australian government functions through the Westminster system, named after the parliamentary building in London called the Westminster Palace. Australia is part of the Commonwealth realm, as distinct from just being part of the Commonwealth. You can be in the Commonwealth but still not have the reigning British monarch as your head of state. So Canada and Australia, for example, are still in the Commonwealth, and they also have the King as their head of state, which means that they are part of the Commonwealth realm. Our language, our spelling closely follows British English. Even though Australia is more Americanized than the UK, we use their slang in words like crikey and mate are surprisingly British in origin. On top of all this, Australians of past never felt the dichotomy between British and Australian that many Australians feel today, as this film from the 1920s recounts the gold diggers' desire to keep Australia British.
The British's best approach was part of our long-standing belief. From the start of our century, Australia had stamped itself as both British and white. And we weren't scared to say so. This scratchy old film from the 1920s didn't muck about. Australia was a white refuge on the doorstep of Asia's yellow hordes. And 20 years later, in the 1940s, when we went looking for millions of migrants, attitudes hadn't changed a lot.
Even the ABC and The Guardian, of all places, also says that people from the UK who have migrated to Australia are Australia's quote-unquote invisible migrants. For many people outside of Britain, ex-colonies like Australia in particular seem to view the word British as a bad word, when it's not. For example, I've got comments saying that "Make Australia British Again" is akin to saying "Make Australia white again." Sure, I don't need to use the word white, but British is a far better descriptor. Because not only do British people happen to be white, but it also conveys the connotation that Australia has lost remnants of its British culture throughout the years and that those traditions should be restored. Isn't it a bit ironic that in a culture that is supposedly multicultural, claiming our ancestry is to be an abhorrent thing, or akin to having pride in genocide, as the left puts it on Australia Day, it seems as though that you can be proud of every culture in the world as long as it's not British. This is even revealed by other Europeans who deny our cultural heritage to the mother country. So the point of this video is to say that do not hate on your British heritage, acknowledge your British heritage, because our British heritage is what has made Australia great, and Australia is a British country whether we like it or not. Patreon.com/make_Australia_British_again. For just $5 a month you get access to our Discord server, and you'll be able to see secret posts, and you'll have mentions at the ends of my videos. Thanks guys. Follow my social medias. Thanks everyone, take care, have a wonderful day.